Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Arts Show, where we celebrate books, music, visual, and the performing arts. So welcome, everyone. Today we are going to Ojai, California. Oh, it is a beautiful destination. If you have not been, it is kind of near Ventura. It is, I would say, in the Central Coast, and just really one of those beautiful destinations. Also good in regards to art. There's beautiful hiking. There's even, as I recall, olive oil tasting out there. And I know you can get some good wine, but on top of it all, there is a beautiful film festival that happens throughout the summer, and that is put on by the Ojai Film Society, which was founded back in 1988. So we're excited to talk about the Film Society and what you can go and experience this summer. And I encourage you to go to the website ojaifilmsociety.org. The link is in the episode notes. And we have the president of the society joining us, Nicholas Weissman. Welcome, Nicholas. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me. I'm calling to you from beautiful Ojai, California, and it's a little hot today, but it's still quite nice.
Now, I know Ojai is beautiful, though, and there is olive oil tasting, right? Am I remembering correctly?
Oh yeah,
That
we
there's
have olive oil, we have wine tasting, we have mandarins, we have a pixie tangerine festival, and yeah, and lots of hikes, and it's a nice time of year for all the swimming in the rivers too.
that is cool. And then, of course, you're not far from the ocean either. So it's very Mediterranean out there.
It is, and it's a high desert, so it's got like very cool nights, and yeah, and surrounded by mountains. We have this mountain range called the Topa Topas that at certain points of the year it turns pink at sunset, which is quite magical.
Oh, man, that's awesome. So this summer series. So this is free for people to go and watch movies, right? At Libbey Bowl. Tell us about the actual Libbey Bowl itself, because so are you going to see the sunset when you go to see a screening?
Yeah, exactly. So we have these, since they're outdoor films, we have them at sunset, and they're at the Libbey Bowl, which is I believe, probably a 60-year-old, maybe 70-year-old amphitheater that was
Oh,
built for in conjunction with the Ojai Music Festival, and it seats about 1,000 people, and it's really just a gem of a place in the center of town. And so we get about 3,000 people a year that come out from the community to watch 6 films during summer, and it's just a blast. We program a mix of films that people may not have seen and they probably should see, or sometimes it's films that are classic films, like we did Princess Bride a couple years ago. This year we're going to do Best in Show, which is kind of some things become classics when they're suddenly 25 years old. And then we also program a couple like new films. Like we had 2 new documentaries, one that just came out of South by Southwest called Cookie Queens, which is about the billion-dollar industry of Girl Scout cookies and entrepreneurship, which is very fun. Last week we did Selena y Los Dinos, which was a film that premiered at Sundance last year, but a lot of people really didn't see it in a theatrical setting. So what we try to provide is just a really nice environment to connect with neighbors and just enjoy cinema together outdoors.
love that, because I think we're so used to everything being digital, and being able to actually get out and reconnect, put the phone down and things like that, and actually be outside, and to be outside and watch a movie is really nice.
It is.
That
And it's fun to bring out like a picnic, and we're in a time now where it costs an easy $100 to do pretty much anything these days, dinner or a movie or things like that. And so we wanted to create an environment where people just had an option to do something fun. It was for all ages. We've had between 5 and 95, in our audience, and a lot of people come to celebrate birthdays, which is quite fun. And so it's really meant to enjoy community being together. And it kind of came out of the pandemic where people really couldn't go inside, and we saw this opportunity to bring what a lot of other cities have in these outdoor screenings, to really have an anchor for people to come and enjoy, and also for the filmmakers to come and sometimes see their film on a bigger screen and with a bigger audience than they've really had in the past.
I love this. I love this. And you are also executive producer and also director at Vacation Land. And I know that's a documentary studio. And I think we've actually done some interviews on films that have gone through Vacation Land. And I like the name, by the way, because I want to be in permanent vacation land. And I think
Yeah.
that's what films do. Sometimes it gives you that little like, oh, you're allowed to turn off and just absorb something completely out of snap off your brain, We don't want to hear all the stress of the world right now and go in there. And I love that you're doing documentaries too. I think those are so crucial, and that you also brought that into the film festival or the series, the summer series, because that blend is so important to have the documentaries. I think it's how a lot of us are actually being able to have not only a deep dive, but to really make conscious decisions on things in life and to see things without it all being talking heads,
Yeah,
or
yeah, sure.
fake
I mean,
news.
yeah, it's been a challenging few years, I think, for the documentary industry. So I think having a place where people can kind of be focused and attentive and together with other people reacting, I think is a really magical thing. Like we had a film called Going Varsity in Mariachi a few years ago, and we brought a mariachi band on. It was a competitive mariachi film, and some of these films don't necessarily get huge distribution, but we can really provide an audience to come out and enjoy them. And then we also program. We have a good partnership with National Geographic, and so we've shown, I think, 4 of their films so far. One of them was Time and Water, which is a recently premiered at Sundance film. It was like an Icelandic poem about summer in Iceland. So yeah, so it's really a nice environment. We have a town has a lot of creativity, a lot of artists, and it's great for parents to bring kids to things like, we played E.T. a couple of years ago,
Oh,
and
cool.
and to have a 2-hour Spielberg film that was maybe 40 years old, to have 800 people, largely kids, be totally immersed in this film is it's just a testament to great storytelling.
It is. I think the other part of this is that, we still go to drive-ins when we were kids, and drive-ins were part of that nostalgia that we have. And so what you're
Yeah.
doing kind of brings me back to that in a way.
Yeah, I mean that's we made a conscious decision to really focus on 6 films and try to do those really well, because every film that we choose, we have a 17-person screening committee, so everybody comes together, I think 5 or 6 times over the fall, and we watch films and we talk about films, and some things you just have to check and see if they still hold up, or maybe they have something like that might be offensive, but also just looking back at if you imagine that you didn't go to a theater, like for instance, this year we have Jurassic Park. If you didn't go to a theater to see Jurassic Park when it came out, you probably never saw it on a
Yeah.
big screen, and you might have even seen it in like 4:3, like on a VHS tape. And so what we're, even for myself, we watched Close Encounters last year. I was too young to have seen it in the theater, but seeing it projected and also in a lot of cases remastered in a space where there's like wind blowing and there's, the night sky and the stars, especially in those space films. And we have one this year called The Arrival, which a lot of people is kind of an underrated film that I think people will absolutely love. It's a spectacularly shot, beautiful Denis Villeneuve film. It's just going to be great. So yeah, that kind of, and then there's films. Last year we did 9 to 5, which was so fun. And that's something where it's like an important part of kind of women's storytelling and history, and having like a whole crowd of people just laughing and yelping and having a great time. It's just those moments are really memorable.
The other thing, some of the shows that you have this year, Best in Show to me is, if it's as important as Spinal Tap, you know,
Sure,
it's really,
sure.
and it
Yeah,
is. But I think to go and see something like with Catherine O'Hara, I think a lot of us were just devastated at her passing. And then
yeah.
recently, Sam Neill who was in
I
Jurassic
know.
Park, famously, I'm
I
like,
know.
oh my gosh, you're gonna have people crying in the audience this year,
I know. And he was in our opening film this year, Hunt for the Wilder People, which is kind of another unsung, incredible film that a lot of people hadn't seen. And so we're sad to see them go, but we're also glad that we can honor them with showing the film and having new generations of people, love them.
Was the Film Society started for this film series, or what was it that created this in '88?
Yeah, it started in 1988 by a number of local filmmakers, and their mission was to bring great, interesting, and eclectic films to the Ojai Valley. They originally based a lot of their work out of the Ojai Playhouse, which is a theater downtown. I think it's a 100-year-old theater downtown, and it was kind of like a Sunday tradition that they would have their membership come and watch a foreign film or watch an interesting documentary. And they did that for probably, I think, 30-ish years. And unfortunately, there was a pipe that had exploded underneath the playhouse. And so at the time it got kind of condemned. And so the organization kind of got kind of quiet for a few years. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And so coming out of the pandemic, we wanted to find a new way to bring people together, to re-energize the organization. And myself and some of the other board members came, up in some of these cities, like in Los Angeles or in New York, where they utilize their parks to show films. And to your point about, the drive-ins, I've been to a couple in my life and I love those. And so we had this idea, but then the city stepped in and offered us this incredible venue. And so it's been a great partnership with the city. We have some funding from the Arts Commission. And then I don't know if you know this, but Ojai is very much a mom and pop kind of town. We don't allow
Hmm.
chain stores in town. And so almost all of our funders, our donors are local businesses. So, for a small amount of donation, they're able to be a part and support what we're doing. And that allows us to operate on a very, very thin, budget, but it's enough to do it well. And then we're not expecting everyone, it's great if people can donate, but it's about showing up and enjoying it.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, because I was looking at some of your partners, like Ojai Music Festivals, you got the Girl Scouts. Okay, that makes sense. Of California's Central Coast, the Ojai Raptor Center, Ojai
Yeah.
Valley Museum, the Crew, Camp Arnaz. Oh, monarch breeding and research industry. Wow. Okay, I need to come back to Ojai. It's been a few years. I'm coming back. Careers in the Valley. And you got what, 808, 805 film? Is that right?
That's what, yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Ojai monthly and quarterly. Man, so you've got some good. Oh, well, then you have a whole bunch of sponsors. You got a lot of people helping. So that it seems like the community is just really rallied around what you're doing. And so Libbey Bowl is an actual inside a park, a regional park, right?
It is. Yeah, it's in Libbey Park, and it was founded as a gift to the city to be able to have this performing arts center. And so, the Ojai Music Festival is the most kind of famous of the events that goes on. It's a 3-day event. They just had their 80-year anniversary, and so they've been a great steward of the community, and they've been written up in the Times and the New Yorker, and so they've been very helpful in shepherding us and helping us to utilize the space and kind of co-promote the different events that happen there.
Man, you're doing great. This is so exciting. So every summer, and so are there? This is everything goes for the summer. So next year will be something else, or do you do any other events in between?
We do we call it a fundraiser. We do it a fundraiser in May of each year at the Ojai Rancho Inn, and it's who's one of our partners. It's like a very cute chic motel, and they have like a big yard in the back. So we do. I think it's a limited, maybe 250 person event or 200-person event, and we bring in some food and some music and a DJ, and we show a film that's maybe more abstract that couldn't sustain necessarily like 1,000-person audience, but for 200 people that really are cinephiles, it's a great opportunity. So, for instance, this year is Time and Water, which is slow, beautiful, poetic, film about Iceland. And that's, set against the backdrop of the Topa Topa Mountains at sunset. So it's quite a special event. We had the director come out and stay, so that was really nice. And then that's our opportunity to kind of tease and present the films for the year. So they're the first ones that get to see the 6 films that we're going to show.
Oh, wow, how cool. And then so the theme for this year is Wild is the Night. Who gets to come up with that title? I like that. As soon as I heard that, I was like, I want to go. I don't know
Yeah,
where it is, but I'll go.
that's done by our 17-person screening committee. And we had, I think it was There's No Place Like Home a couple of years ago. Then last year I think it was in a World. This one was Wild as the Night. I think we looked at the films that we had, both about getting out into the outdoors, exploring the universe, Jurassic
Yeah.
Park. We found this kind of like Wild as the Night theme, which has been really fun.
Perfect. And just, I'm sorry, Best in Show is the wow. I really want to see that. And seeing it on the big screen, I'd lose it because I think that is just it's one of the best films ever made, in my own opinion. That's my little
Yeah.
opinion, but
Yeah.
it is, and of course, Jurassic Park. But that's what's so interesting about what you have is you have something new. You have a little documentary, you've got a really good balance of what you show. So, and I want to tell people if you don't get to go there this year, please do next year, and please just take a look at this and go to Ojai. It's beautiful. And I'm so glad you joined us to tell us all about this because, I know a lot of people, we have a huge audience in California. And it's not far from LA for people to come up and, spend the weekend, in Ojai and get away from the city for a little bit because it's not a city in Ojai, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's, this is the time of year where the temperature drops to a really comfortable, like 60 to 65 degrees at night. And so you just kind of like get to sit outside, enjoy the stars and just have a good time.
One thing before you go, with you being in the industry itself, producer, filmmaker, all of what you do and understanding the distribution a bit better than the rest of us here, you were talking about like things like Jurassic Park. You may not be able to see that again, like, when we saw things as kids, we were lucky, but then kids now didn't get to see that on a big screen. So huge benefit, like what you were talking about for seeing these, going to these kinds of events and it being free for a family. Again, huge benefit, right? But the other thing, you've got new shows, and you were saying, well, they didn't get that much distribution, so it's really great to have these films being shown. And I think that's really important because I feel like everyone thinks that every film that is made is going to end up on their computer
Mhm.
soon. And and there's limitations in that. There's limitations in, and it's a hard road. I mean, can you just kind of give us an overview of the process of a filmmaker now hoping to get funding, maybe have already just gone out and done it on their own, and hoping it gets picked up? How does it get into the theaters? I mean, going to film festivals, I mean, the evolution of a film, I mean, it's a huge, industry financially. It's like, what did it do at the box office and all that? But these it's just for especially independent filmmakers, it is not an easy road to get the film out there. And some real gems get, buried in the dust, literally at times.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's that's one of the things that's really important to us. We have a few filmmakers on our board, and the films like Hunt for the Wilder People, one of the first ones we showed. It was a 2016 Sundance film, so this was the 10-year anniversary. It got bought out of Sundance, and the distributor that it had went bankrupt, and then the film was kind of locked up. You could still watch it, but it wasn't really accessible. And just this year, the filmmakers got control and new distribution for the film. So it was great for us to finally get to program it after a couple years and realize that, d- I would say probably 65%, 70% of the crowd had never seen the film before. And they reacted in such a beautiful way. It just is wonderful. And we get wonderful feedback from the directors, particularly the documentary directors that come out and rarely get to have, 300 plus people come and see their film. And some of them just don't get distribution these days, and I think at the end of the day, speaking as a filmmaker, as a doc filmmaker, impact to me is probably the most important thing, just because I know that there's not a ton of money in this in docs. But when you program something like Selene Los Dinos, that film went straight to Netflix, which is very kind of them to let us use it. And they let us use it because it is for a community impact screening. And same thing with National Geographic. They realize that there is a value in a community seeing it. We only get to show it if we don't charge. And so we don't charge, and we're able to, bring the filmmakers up and have them see it. So it's that to us, I think, is an important part of our mission. And I don't know that you'd get as many eyeballs if it was charged, because sometimes it's a, how would you say, it's a gamble. You don't know if you're going to like the film or not. So, for for the price
Yeah.
of just showing up, it's an opportunity for people to be impacted by something. Even last year, we showed Greatest Night in Pop, which was a film about the We Are the World song. And the filmmakers were so excited. They had almost 10 people from their team come up because they'd never seen it with that kind of audience. So that feels really good for us.
I think it is huge, because even if they've gone and seen it, it's impactful. They're going to go watch it again later because people watch things more than once. It's just like it's very similar to a journey of a book or an album for a musician. It's a rough, hard road. And when you see people really appreciating it in real time, that impact, like you said, is just everything for someone who's really put in the blood, sweat, and tears to make something happen. And often documentary filmmakers, some of them put their life on the line. Honestly, I've seen that, and it's uh, it's a huge deal. And they sometimes get whistleblowing stuff that puts them in a predicament, depending on what the film is, right? But it's just it's tedious work, and I think this
Mhm.
is fantastic. And for families to be able to afford it, because, like you're saying, it's expensive, and so people aren't going to shell that out if they don't know a whole bunch about the film, or like you're saying, do I risk it? I've got like 4 kids I'm bringing. How much is that going to cost me? On
Yeah.
top of food
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah. 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 No. Yeah. Absolutely. We hope that all these things, all the different organizations in town, are bringing tourists and people to and people in the community out to just have something fun to do. And I'd rather people spend some money on ice cream, and pizza.
Okay.
And, yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I know that's the thing. It's a wonderful thing for tourism, and another thing for our park system. And that's what we do here at Big Blend. And we're really about parks are for everybody and have multiple uses. And
Yeah.
so when you go to your parks and be able to experience them at night, which a lot of times they get forgotten about in that way, this is one of those things too. So thank you so much for joining us and for giving us insight of what you're doing, so our listeners can go out and experience this hopefully this year. Everyone, I'm going to get this out before Best of Show because I want you to see Best of Show. Whether or
Yeah.
not you've seen it, you must. And Jurassic Park, it's a classic. You have
Yeah.
to. You have to. So that's what's coming up. So July 24th is Best in Show. You were talking about Arrival. That is August
Yeah.
20th. And then 27th is Jurassic Park. Have I got that right for the
Yeah.
rest of the
Perfect.
summer? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
Again,
Lisa.
go to ohaifilmsociety.org. It's linked in the episode notes.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Art Show. Please keep up with us at bigblendradio.com and keep up with Big Blend magazines at blendradioandtv.com.